Hello everybody, Maven here, and today we have to talk about the Cyrtarachne's Facade. When this exotic first came out, I did not care about it. I ignored it because I didn't really like the ability. And then I finally decided to go and snag one about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I still didn't use it because it was a terrible roll, and I'm picky and stubborn with my armor and I don't use terrible rolls. So when I finally focused a good one over at our good buddy Rahul, I decided to give it a try. And it far exceeded my expectations. This thing is actually really powerful. Now, it's just good in general, but it's better this season specifically because of a certain artifact mod we'll talk about in a second. So first things first, what the Cyrtarachne's Facade does is when you activate your grapple ability, you gain Woven Mail for 10 seconds. Now, Woven Mail's damage resistance is actually 60% resistance. That is the biggest resist buff we've ever seen in Destiny. And you can just keep on spamming your grapple over and over again to gain Woven Mail forever. So the way you're able to do this is you just look down at the floor and you grapple the ground, and it actually doesn't consume your entire grapple charge that way. So you pair that with the Widow Silk aspect that gives you an additional grenade charge, and you never run out. I'm telling you, never. And now an additional reason why this Woven Mail is so good is because of a certain artifact mod this season called Strand Soldier. That says when you gain Woven Mail, your strand weapons also get unraveling rounds. So not only do you have a constant 60% damage buff, you have constant unraveling rounds, which are amazing for damage and ad clear, and also Thread of Generation that says that when you deal damage just in general, you get grenade energy for your grapple spam. And those unraveling seekers from the unraveling rounds just flying around the room damaging all the enemies gives you so much grenade energy. So then we have to pair this with none other than the best strand primary in the game right now, the QUICKSILVER Storm. This thing is very meta. So many people are using it in Grandmaster Nightfalls because it shreds. Especially the grenade launcher mode is kind of OP. And yeah, this thing takes very good advantage of the unraveling rounds, and I was surprised at how much damage it was putting out. I was tearing through the Grandmaster Nightfall with this, as you can probably see by the background gameplay. So that was the longest intro ever, so let's do some damage testing and build breakdown. Don't forget to drop a like, and I hope you enjoy. Now, as mentioned, our primary of choice is the QUICKSILVER Storm, not only because it's an exotic and does 40% more damage to miners, but because the grenade launcher mode is actually crazy. So we'll do a damage comparison against Carl. As you can see, this is the amount of damage that we do with 2 rockets from Hothead's base damage, and then moving on to the QUICKSILVER Storm's grenade launcher mode, it does just about the same as 2 rockets. So yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. So while we're here on the artifact, squad goals and conductive cosmic needle are decent. They're there to help your teammates, but the main 2 are going to be Strand Soldier and improved unraveling. So like I said in the intro, this is what's giving us a 100% uptime of unraveling rounds that we can activate on command, and improved unraveling is going to increase the damage of those unraveling effects. Now, does improved unraveling really up the DPS of our strand weapons? Not really. So we're going to do a damage comparison against Carl without unraveling and with unraveling, and as you can see, the unraveling doesn't really add a whole lot. The DPS is fairly similar. It does kill quicker, it does add something, it's not completely useless. But on the left, I did kind of scuff it up as well. Maybe I could have aimed a little bit better or tried again, but it doesn't really add a whole lot of damage. But there are 2 places where unraveling really shines. Number 1 is obviously ad clear. Those seekers fly all over the room. And number 2, no matter if you're damaging 1 target or several targets, those seekers are creating more total damage numbers. And that is exactly what we want for Thread of Generation. It says that dealing damage generates grenade energy, and it's not about the amount of damage you do. You could do 1,000,000 damage all in one chunk. It won't proc Thread of Generation much. You want a ton of individual damage numbers, and that is exactly what unraveling rounds produce. Now let's move on. The next big thing that really breaks Strand Hunter is Thread of Ascent. Thread of Ascent is insane. It says that activating your grenade ability reloads your equipped weapon and also grants bonus airborne effectiveness and handling for a short duration. Also, as icing on the cake, ups your mobility. Now, since our grapple ability is essentially infinite and we keep grappling the floor every few seconds to reproc Woven Mail and unraveling rounds, we're also fully reloading our weapon in the process with Thread of Ascent. And that is obviously insane with things like rocket launchers. So every time you pull out your rocket to shoot a shot, you're shooting 2 shots. You shoot one, grapple the floor, shoot another. It is very good for burst damage and also sustained damage. And it is also very good with breach loaded grenade launchers. My grenade launcher of choice with this build is the explosive personality with auto loading holster and frenzy. So every time I whip it out, I can just shoot it once, grapple the floor, shoot it again, and that is very, very good burst. And you can see here the combo that I would do in general play is just shoot my primary, pull out my GL, shoot 2 quick shots, go back to my primary, and just rinse and repeat that. And my rocket launcher of choice with this build is the Apex Predator with reconstruction and bait and switch. And while it doesn't have maxed out handling, remember that the thread of ascent also ups our handling, so it's basically maxing it out. So the combo I like to do with this is shoot my 2 reconstruction shots, then grapple the floor. Don't shoot again, leave that one in the mag, because then when you swap away for a second and swap back, you'll have 2 in the mag again, and you can rinse and repeat, and that is very good burst damage, especially if somebody in your fire team has Gallarhorn. And while we are doing this, we are also becoming a tank, refreshing our woven mail, getting that 60% damage resistance. Now you may be wondering how effective that damage resistance is, so I'll show another side-by-side comparison against Carl here. So on the left we don't have woven mail, and on the right we do, and you can see the difference is drastic. And having that massive damage resistance in Grandmaster Nightfalls especially is incredible. And I know shackle grenades are amazing, but having that woven mail constantly is very valuable. And there's one more thing we actually have to talk about with Thread of Ascent. It has a piece of hidden text that isn't actually shown here. It says that when you activate it, you get granted bonus airborne effectiveness and handling, but what it doesn't tell you is that it also gives you bonus reload speed. I'll show an example here. This is my base reload speed, and then after I activate Thread of Ascent, suddenly it feels like my reload speed is maxed out, which makes just general gameplay feel amazing because, you know, we're spamming that grapple every few seconds, so we're constantly going to have maxed out reload speed, and it makes any gun you use feel amazing. And for our other aspect here, we got Ensnaring Slam, because being able to suspend targets is very useful for champions in Grandmaster Nightfalls, and because of that suspend, we got Thread of Continuity to increase the duration of that, and then also Thread of Mind, so we get some class ability back when we defeat that suspended target, so we can spam it over and over again. Now onto our mod setup. The main thing to focus on here is stacks on stacks, so we get an Orb of Power. Instead we get 2 armor charges, pair that with 2 copies of Strand Weapon Surge, and we get a constant 17% damage buff for our Quicksilver Storm to really help it mow down adds and help its consistency, and Time Dilation makes sure that you have that constant damage buff. However, if you do take away one of these Strand Weapon Surge mods, you will be down to a 10% damage buff instead of 17. If you're willing to sacrifice 7% damage, then you could throw on a copy of Recuperation to help your survivability. I wouldn't argue with you if you did that. Now we need some ways to make orbs. The first is going to be Reaper on our class item, so we dodge and our next kill is going to make an orb. Strand Siphon, so our Quicksilver Storm double kills make orbs. Firepower, so that our grapple melee ability makes orbs, and then Heavy Handed, so our little spike ability makes an orb. Now this spot right here is pretty interchangeable. You can use whatever you want. Impact Induction makes it so our little needle spike ability is going to give us some grapple cooldown. It's kind of overkill though, and I even think that Grenade Kickstart is a little bit overkill, and also Grenade Kickstart would take away your surges, so I really don't recommend that. So you can really put whatever you want in this slot. Now on our helmet we got Hands On and Ashes to Assets for more super energy. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe both of these will trigger on the grapple melee ability. Now on our class item, we have Bomber, so we dodge, we get some grenade cooldown back. However, I don't really find myself dodging on this build because I tend to save my dodge for the suspend slam thing. And also, I don't really need to use Marksman dodge because I use my Thread of Ascent and just grapple the floor to auto-reload my weapons. So you could actually just run Gambler's dodge and swap out Bomber for whatever you need. But it's fine filler every once in a while. Every once in a blue moon when you do run out of grapples. Now for our stat distribution, and FYI and shameless plug here, but I did recently put out a video going way into the complex details about how stats work and how much you should invest in your stats to make a build. And I'll link that in the card up above if you want to check it out. I highly recommend doing so. You can learn a lot from it. Anyways, I would highly recommend 100 resilience. That is definitely required for PvE, and also further adds to the whole tank theme of the build. And then I got 100 mobility and 100 discipline for our grapples. always run a minimum of 3 intellect, and then I invested a tiny bit into strength 4, and then recovery really doesn't matter. Now that pretty much does it for the build. Now the Quicksilver Storm, Explosive Personality, Apex Predator loadout is something that I have been enjoying greatly. However, you can really use whatever weapons that you want to use with this build, as long as you're using a Strand primary. You know, Quicksilver Storm is highly, highly recommended, but if you didn't want to use it and you wanted to use something else, you can go ahead and do so. And then you can use your exotic slot to use a weapon that can really benefit from the cheesiness of Threat of Ascent to auto-reload it, like Parasite, for example. There is also the option of the 4th Horseman, so you can fire off those 5 shots, Threat of Ascent the floor, fire off 5 more shots, and then do your Marksman dodge and fire off 5 more shots. So you can get some insane burst that way with 4th Horseman. Now obviously, if I was doing some sweaty Grandmaster farming and speedrunning, I would use Void Hunter. That's typically the go-to, always has been. But the next best thing, in my opinion, has to be this one for Hunter. You know, if I just wanted to chill and have a good time and use a fun build, this is definitely what I would use. It's just so incredibly consistent and reliable and survivable. You know, honestly, 10 out of 10. You know, you can cheese the system on Void Hunter and go invis around enemies to survive, but without invis, you're kind of squishy. But with this build, you're tanky as a titan, and it's the most survivable Hunter has ever felt. But anyways, if you have any suggestions or questions about the build, feel free to ask down below in the comments. But seriously guys, dropping a like and a comment really helps the algorithm. Even if you comment the word potato, it helps out, trust me. So as always, I will leave a dim loadout link to this build down below in the description and the pinned comment if you would like to give it a try. Feel free to share it with a friend, it'd be greatly appreciated. And if you are new here, consider subscribing. Would love to have you here. And with that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.